It's lovely talking to you, as always.
Oh, hello.
We were just talking about you kids.
I'm Denise Heberly.
And I'm Bill Goodman.
Together, we've been fighting fascism for over 50 years.
And so much has changed over those 50 years, such as the ingredients to a successful firebomb.
And the glass that bank windows are made of.
But there's one thing that hasn't changed over 50 years, something that is so important to tell you kids who are new to this movement.
Shut the fuck up. You're sitting in the police transport van after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. In a holding cell with your comrades?
Shut the fuck up. Cop knocks on your door?
Shut the fuck up.
Texting on an unsecured device?
Shut the fuck up. Pulled over by the cops after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. Cop just asking about your day?
Shut the fuck up. Feds call your mom?
Tell your mother to shut the fuck up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up!
It's okay. Now you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So, hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm just, I'm talking about my ailments with my friend Mike McRae, world's premier voice impressionist. And we're talking about how important it is to have sleep as you get older. Last night, I got 4 hours and 58 minutes of sleep. 17 minutes of deep sleep, 45 minutes of REM sleep. But I had a great dream. I had a dream last night that I looked up in the sky, and in the distance I saw, not really in the distance, it was close. You know, like one of those big moons where they're really close, but it was Saturn. Saturn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
That's a cool dream. I'd watch that dream.
it was, I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was like, that's unbelievable.
Well, it's your dream. You had no choice. You can't look somewhere else.
Well, in the dream, I could have looked somewhere else. It was nice.
I guess so.
It was something. It was something. It's always funny when old people you haven't talked to in forever show up. David Feldman showed up in my dream last night.
Really? What'd he say?
He just wanted to admit that he's a psychopath.
That's a dream, all right.
Because he'll never admit it. He actually did admit it to me once. But anyway, let's get to this. Hey, hello, this is Jimmy. Who's this?
Hey, what's up, Jimmy? It's J.D. Vance calling.
Oh, Mr. Vice President. Good to hear from you. How are you doing?
Not good, Jimmy. I'll be honest with you. This is sort of a crappy time.
Yeah.
Not a fun week for old No Pants Vance here. Kind of hate everything and everyone right now.
Oh, no. What's wrong, pal?
Well, first of all, the central theme here is that I have a book that I'm trying to promote. Bear that in mind. I'm currently trying to sell a book. It's a boilerplate pre-presidential run memoir, or whatever's left to write about, since I sort of shot my wad with Hillbilly Elegy.
Right, I got you.
And I named it Communion. And I thought that was clever because it referenced my creepy adult obsession with Catholicism. But unbeknownst to me, Communion is also the name of an early 90s sci-fi horror movie about alien abduction that apparently freaked everybody the fuck out.
No.
Exactly. I didn't know. In the early 90s, the only movie I ever got to see was an old VHS copy of Monster Squad my grandma got from a pawn shop using sexual favors. So we are already swimming upstream here with title recognition. Just to give you some basic background here.
Okay.
But either way, I have to promote this stupid book about my journey or fucking whatever. So the first stop, obviously, is The View.
I saw that.
Which I knew wasn't going to be a cakewalk, not exactly MAGA-friendly territory, but goddamn, what a nest of old bitches that whole deal is.
Mr. Vice President, please.
Oh, come on, Jimmy. They suck so hard, and you know it. They blame me for every ill currently affecting society that, yes, I am in support of, but I didn't personally cause. And of course they grilled me about Epstein, and I'm like, I'm on your side here. Why doesn't the government release the files? Why doesn't the government produce the client list?
I saw that. Aren't you part of the government, though?
Yeah, but not that part, not the file releasing part.
Yeah.
Totally different wing of the government. There's different parts, Jimmy. So on one hand, I am getting the business from these liberal ladies. And then on the other side, I'm getting grief from my own party. And bear in mind, I am trying to sell a book.
Why are Republicans mad at you, though?
Because the Trump administration, in all its wisdom, started a moronic war with Iran that no one wanted. And now they're backing out with some goofy-ass peace plan that has been dumped squarely in my lap. All while I'm trying to sell a book called Communion from Bantam Publishers.
Lindsey Graham has said you are the architect of this peace deal. Is that true?
Of course not. No more than I'm the architect of the bathhouse where he will inevitably contract monkeypox. But it doesn't matter. In a game of hot potato in the Trump White House, you just have to take the hot potato. You can't say, ooh, hot, 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 hot. You have to pretend it's a normal potato. Otherwise, you betrayed Trump. Or the potato, whatever this analogy demands.
What is going on exactly with the peace deal, though?
Nobody knows, Jimmy. It's chaos. All anyone cares about is getting the Straits of Hormuz open. We basically lost this war, let's be honest. Literally by any measuring stick. But we have to make it seem like it's a victory, so that's why we haven't released a plan yet. Because we haven't been able to figure out how to make it seem like we won. We even kidnapped Frank Luntz and cranked him full of amphetamines, and even he can't figure it out.
Oh, my God.
That's why I'm stalling. I literally told the press that Qatar and Pakistan want to keep the details under wraps for a bit for Muslim reasons. Reasons that have to do with Islam. My staff was looking at me from the side of the room like, literally, what the fuck did you just say? And I'm like, lay off, dude. I'm literally making this shit up as I'm talking.
This sounds like a mess, pal.
You think? You think, Jimmy? You think this might be a cataclysm of cataclysmic proportions that's being blamed on me while I have a book available for purchase? From Del Rey paperbacks?
Okay. No need to get testy. Hey, wait, your book is going straight to paperback?
Yeah, we did some market research and to our target demo hardbacks read more gay or like fancy pants book learning. Anyway, I'm playing 4D chess here. The more this Iran war can be shown to be a disaster, then the more I will let it leak that I was against it from the get-go, and the more I can position myself as a successor to Trump, but not to Trump excesses, thereby appealing to the more reasonable MAGA base. And the more my rival Rubio will be seen as a slavish servant of Trump, merely a robot programmed by his evil master to be Trump 2.0. Kamala Harris didn't depart from Joe Biden on anything, including Gaza, and that murdered her in the polls. The successor can't be a repeater.
Okay, but who would have been the Rubio in that scenario?
What, like a guy from his administration who was even older than Biden? Biden's whole thing was, I'm old. The Rubio guy in that scenario would have to have been like, you think Biden's old? Fucking look at me, dude. I'm the oldest. I'm dying right now, bitch. That would have been hilarious. Kamala still would have lost to that guy, too.
Probably.
Well, I gotta go. Much like the concept of communion, my book, Communion, isn't going to sell itself. Barnes & Noble in Dayton, Ohio, here we come. Who should, goddammit, I said, leave some room in your suitcase. We could fit like 8 or 9 more volumes in there. Okay, bye, Jimmy.
Okay, bye. Yeah,
there he goes.
It's tough times for him. He is not.
It's not. Yeah, he's weathering the storm. I love it.
He's doing his best.
I'm hanging in there, though.
All right, we got to get to our next guest. Great to talk with you, pal. Get better.
Okay, I'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
All right, take luck.
Take luck.
Take luck and care.
We'll be right back.
and Jimmy Dore.
Let's not lose this good connection. Hey, everybody. We have a big deal today. We have big shot Glenn Greenwald's with us. He is a journalist, former constitutional lawyer, He won the Pulitzer Prize in 2014 for his reporting and The Intercept on government surveillance based on the Edward Snowden documents. Remember that? That was over 10 years ago. Wow. He left The Intercept in 2020, launched his Rumble-based program, System Update. That's over. The guy keeps moving through stuff. He shuttered it. That show shuttered this past February. That show has been shuttered, and now he's back to doing long-form journalism and commentary, primarily on Substack. He also does a video show there, but it is a hideous set that he has. Hideous. He also writes a regular column for the Brazilian newspaper of, I don't know how to pronounce that, Folha de São Paulo, I guess. How do you say it, Glenn?
Folha São Paulo.
Folha São Paulo. Okay, Folha.
Beautiful, Jimmy. Beautiful.
FOIA, which is like the Freedom of Information Act requests.
No, it's Folha. It's with an L. It means like leaf or sheet.
Oh, okay.
Let's just do an Portuguese lessons, like basic Portuguese.
Oh, that's right. It's Portuguese in Brazil. Oh, that's
yes.
right. I've been thinking of moving to Portugal because I've been thinking of moving out of this country. And
Portugal is awesome.
I've heard good things. How come? Yeah. What's so great about Portugal? Tell me.
It's like you get all the benefits of being in the EU, but without any of the bullshit. You know, like it's not France or the UK or Spain or Germany. So it's just like its own little thing. It's a small country. It's beautiful on the water. Lisbon is an amazing city. There's all these like interior little places that are rural and beautiful.
Oh, okay. Well, we should go. I've never been. I'm going to the Mediterranean in July. Maybe I'll swing by. We'll see what happens. Can we swing by? Can you swing by Lisbon? I think so. All right, Glenn. I want to ask you, do you have any thoughts? I know there's so much news breaking, and it's too much news to cover. It's so overwhelming stuff is happening. I wanted to first ask you, you did one of these jubilees, right? Where you sit down and you debate 50 people.
Oh, yeah.
And I've only seen clips.
You're surrounded by them.
Yeah. I haven't seen, I know Dave Rubin felt that he was threatened physically when he did his. Did you feel threatened when you did yours? Were you afraid for your safety?
They're like a bunch of little twinks and like political junkie nerds. I mean, if you're threatened by that, you might as well never leave your house. Also, you know what's funny? First of all, Dave Rubin was probably the single worst humiliation that has ever existed in the history of that program, which is unsurprising given that I've long maintained he's the single dumbest person in all of media. And I don't mean that as an insult, just like as an observation. I mean, I don't mean it as praise, obviously, but I just, it's totally unsurprising. But I'll tell you something funny, Jimmy. I did a little debriefing for my audience because amazingly, a huge number of people watch that who don't even watch many other things, but who do watch that. They have a big audience. And before the Dave Rubin thing, was remarking on, they have this like security protocol. Like they take you in, you don't really get to interact with the people that are there because they're concerned there's going to be physical confrontation either before, during, or after. They have tons of security. The minute there's a pause, they take you back to the green room. They escort you back. I was remarking on how excessive the security was. And then Dave Rubin comes down and was like, I felt like I was going to be killed. And he had this like security guy who he calls my guy Joey. And he's like, you guys know my guy Joey. My guy Joey told me that if they attacked me, he was going to step in and protect me. And it's like, what the fuck is this neurosis? Like, and especially he had liberals. He didn't even have MAGA people. He just had like these little Twinkie liberals.
Yeah, I thought those are the snowflakes that he was debating. I thought those are the Twinkies. He
had like 20 Harry Sissons. And he was like, oh my God, I thought they were going to kill me.
Harry Sisson got me too, so he's been off the radars lately. He was dating several women at once, and you can't do that. and still be in good standing, by the way, at liberals.
Do you remember that? No, not in liberal circles. That's
No.
absolutely prohibited. You have to be a very good feminist ally. Only do one at a time. Do you remember that time when Trump produced that AI video during the protest, and for whatever reason they to him, and like Trump flew over and dumped a huge bucket of actual shit right on Harry Sisson's head.
And people got upset, but they get upset about everything. Thank God for Trump.
I don't approve of that. Yeah, I don't approve of that. I watched it like 1,000 times, but I do not approve.
But I do have to say, whenever Dave Rubin's name comes up on the show, how much this might surprise you, but he is a fun fellow to hang out with. He's a lot of laughs. Yeah, not kidding. I'm not saying that sarcastically. We always enjoyed his company.
I don't know. I hung out with him, not hung out, but I had lunch with him a couple times, and I did not find him the slightest bit interesting or amusing, but maybe we just didn't combine as well as you two did.
Oh, it was bad.
He does stand up, by the way. Have you ever seen his stand up?
I have not. Kurt, my co-host Kurt,
who's a real stand-up comedian.
Yeah, he vows that Dave was not a real stand-up comedian, but I can't say either way. I've never seen him do stand-up comedy, but no, he you know, I was back when I used to smoke pot. I haven't smoked pot for years now, so maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe
that explains it. Yeah, I mean, you can find humor in anything when you're all high on pot.
Yeah, okay. I just want to play a little clip of your of your Jubilee, and
okay,
because I've only seen the clips that are like mind-numbing, and I think this was one of them. Let's listen.
My next surrounding claim is the Trump administration has been considerably more corrupt than the Biden administration. I don't think there are things that compare in the Biden administration to the level of personal corruption. And what I'm asking you is whether you
don't think going after your political opponents.
I'm asking you is whether you
illegally.
You don't think Trump has gone after his political opponents as well. He's tried to indict James Comey. He tried to indict Letitia James, and even the grand jury threw them out. But I'm asking you about the examples that I listed. Do you think I've accurately described the personal corruption of Trump, his son?
Even if I grant your premise,
I don't want you to grant it. I want to know if you think I've accurately described it, because we're talking about billions of dollars in personal wealth. Jared Kushner created a vulture capital fund, an investment fund, in which the primary investors were the Saudis, who invested $2 billion into Jared Kushner's personal fund. The Emiratis have invested hundreds of millions of dollars as well. Donald Trump, his sons, Steve Witkoff, and his sons created a crypto company that the UAE has devoted hundreds of billions of dollars to, and then bought a 49% stake share in. The Qataris have done the same. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump just created a new drone company that they're now selling to the Pentagon and getting contracts from the Pentagon that will further personally enrich the Trump family. We're talking about a level, billions and billions of dollars in personal wealth that did not exist before Donald Trump entered the presidency, that now exists in his family by virtue of these deals with the exact countries on which he wields the most influence.
There's 2 points I want to make. Okay, so first off, right, even let's say I grant all of that. Let's say I grant
because
all
it's
of
true.
That. No, let's say I grant all of that.
I'm going to
grant
it.
That still doesn't prove your claim. I brought up a whole list of things that Biden
how much
has
money
done
did
that's
Biden and his family make?
But how much? Can I make my second point?
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead.
make my second point? Okay, are American citizens not free to pursue business activities outside political office?
No, they're
not. Can Obama not
not.
pursue a Netflix deal? Can Obama not pursue book deals?
Once
with
he's
other
out of
people?
office, he can. Once he's served 2 terms and is out of office.
Was Trump in office when this was happening?
Yes, the World Financial Liberty Company was created in the transition after he won the election and before he was inaugurated. 4 days before he was inaugurated, he created that crypto company into which hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign money have flowed, enriching the Trump family.
Whoa! So I think they shouldn't call that Jubilee.
How scared I was of me.
You seem very scared. I think they should call that. Hey, can I finish? They should call it Jubilee. So can I finish? Let me finish. So what was your big? So I railed on the Biden administration for their corruption.
Me too.
Because it was real and it was there, and he did lots of the things they accused Trump of doing first, and including mishandling top secret documents. He kept them in his garage next to his Corvette. But what Trump is doing is, again, as Trump likes to say, nobody can believe it. It's phenomenal. This kind of corruption that nobody can believe it's happening. I'm doing it. It's the biggest. It's like on magnitudes of 10 times the corruption that Biden did. And Biden was 100% criminal, no doubt about it. Are you shocked that other people aren't shocked? And why do you think the Democrats don't talk about his actual corruption? Oh, hang on. Your thing is fucking dropping now all the time again. It was fine up until right now. Try it again. No, not. It's about it sounds like that.
It's just such a universe in our ability to speak.
This is a bummer now. I wonder if this is going to work. It worked for so long.
Jimmy.
It worked for so long, and then now when we get into it, it stops. Did they Pegasus your computer?
Oh, God.
Oh, now he's frozen.
I say he restarts his computer. I don't know if he restarted his computer in the first place.
Steph, my lovely wife suggests that you restart your computer.
Executive producer.
Let's go to a card and we'll come right back. So let's Okay, Glenn, we left off where you were saying how much you loved my show, and you admire me. What were you saying? I forget.
The anger that I have that you have won more awards. How can this be? It's so bizarre.
Somebody said restart modem and router too, and that would take 5 minutes for him.
Well, I guess we got nothing else to do. We might as well. Now he's frozen. Now he's back. He's not frozen anymore.
All right. So my suggestion is if he could turn off his router and modem.
That's what my executive producer, Steph Zamorano, says.
The executive producer saying I should turn off my router and modem.
Yeah.
That's what she says.
Yeah, and probably take about 5 minutes for it to come back.
Tell her that I think this is going to work. You know, I do interviews every day.
I know.
Turn off your camera.
No, I don't want him to.
No, I just want to see if it works. If he turns off his camera, I just want to see.
My engineers.
Okay, let's try that. Okay. The best part of my appearances are being able to be seen.
I agree.
I know. There's a lot in your eyes that happens.
Yeah, a lot of you. Just.
I'm going to try this for a while, and if it works, we'll see if we can.
It's actually not working any better, actually.
So, honestly, I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, I'll be guided by what you want to do. I mean, I can come back anytime, and I will, but I'm so sorry for this. I don't know what it sucks. I mean, I don't know why this is happening. I really don't. I can't even begin to think of a reason. It's not any better.
No, it's like nope.
It's
now you
choppy.
froze. You just froze. You're frozen now. I guess we're gonna have to let this one go today, unless he wants to restart his router and what? The router and what?
Router and modem.
So, yeah, you just froze for about 10 seconds.
I'm just trying to switch things.
I can't even. I can see you being exasperated, but I can't even hear you say it. Now I can't hear you at all. Not even a choppy.
And he's already logged out of the app once. Has he logged completely out of the app? I would try one more thing is to log out of the app. Yeah, full modem and router. All right.
Do you have the energy to restart your modem and router or no? Can't hear you. Now we can't hear you. No audio whatsoever now. I see your mouth. I see your lips moving.
I mean, let's see. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now I can hear you.
Maybe the issue is this microphone. I just don't know. Let's.
Yeah, I think
I put that microphone and just use the regular microphone.
Yeah, I think that's actually better.
That's a great idea.
I think it was your microphone actually. I think your connection from your microphone to your computer.
Yeah, and that wasn't something your executive producer suggested. All right, let's try one more time, Jimmy. I'm confident.
Okay, all right, we're going to try this one more time. All right, here we are. We're back on, and Glenn is he's switching microphones, and we're going to see if this works. So I forget what the F we were saying, but
we were talking about that Jubilee thing.
Yeah, that's right, the Jubilee thing. So were you? I forget what my question was, but were you shocked at how people just don't know anything about Trump's corruption and how they don't care and how it's so much 10 times worse?
I mean, that's the thing that honestly I left most surprised about, because the way Jubilee does this is it's not like they just get people off the street who are just random people off the street who don't know much about politics. They purposely recruit. These are mostly like influencers, YouTubers, TikTokers, people who want to build an audience and who want to attract attention, and they're mostly political junkies. And they came prepared with idiotic talking points on like the war and Israel and Iran, but at least they came with talking points, as dumb as they were. When it came to these corruption issues, they had never heard of any of these things before. The issue about the Saudis investing in Jared Kushner's hedge fund, or the Emiratis and the Qataris pouring money into Trump's crypto company, or the drone company, or any of the other things that we just listed. It wasn't like they came prepared to deny that this was corruption. And that's why that kid kept paying. And they were all saying, okay, even if I grant this, and I was saying, no, don't grant it. Tell me whether or not this is accurate, whether this is happening. And they were all ill prepared to do so because the media they consume, I think like a lot of it is like Ben Shapiro and probably Fox News and just like pro-Trump, pro-Israel, quote unquote, independent media. They just don't include any of these stories in the discourse. And so they were completely ignorant of the fact that any of this was happening. And at the same time, the Democrats are so bad at talking about these issues too, because their party is so filled with corruption as well, that it's very difficult for them to condemn it with any kind of a straight face. That what to me are some of the most important issues of the second Trump term, and some of the most disturbing, are things that most people just don't know about.
So that's the thing. The Democrats obviously are not shy about using lawfare against Donald Trump, except, what I said, it took them so long to impeach him the first time was because they had to find a crime that they weren't also complicit in. And so this kind of corruption that Trump is doing, they're kind of complicit in it. They're all doing insider trading. We know that. Nancy Pelosi outperformed. She's a regular Bernie Madoff as far as she's outperforming the market left and right all the time. So is that it? Is that why we don't know about this corruption? Because the Democrats don't make a stink about it because they're also guilty of the same types of corruption, just not on the scale.
Right. Well, it's funny because one of the dumbest ones that was who was there, like one of the genuinely dumb, like Dave Rubin level dumb. He said something that at the time I thought was one of the dumbest things I ever heard. Actually, I thought about it afterwards when I saw these clips. And I was like, on some level, it's almost like so stupid that there's a kind of component of truth to it, which was, when they were talking about Hunter Biden and Burisma in Ukraine, which I was really talking about. And I spent a lot of time condemning and reporting on during the Biden administration, because I did think what Hunter Biden was doing in Ukraine and then in China with the documents on his laptop were corrupt. But the reality is that the Trump kids and Trump himself are, you have to add 2 or 3 zeros to what the Bidens were doing in terms of the level of corruption and the amount of ill-gotten gains. And at one point, one of them said to me, so it seems like your real complaint is that Trump is just a better businessman.
Yes.
And at first I was like, idiot, we're not talking about profit. We're talking about thievery, like stealing, like corruption. And it's not a good thing to steal more. And then when I thought about it again, I thought, if the Democrats and Republicans are both going to just have a very corrupt political system, which of course we do, why wouldn't you almost consider it admirable to just do the same kind of corruption, but instead of making $50,000 a month, make, $500,000 a month or $5 million a month? Like, what? Ethically, there's really no difference. And as dumb as he was, and as dumb as that point was, there was also almost an element of truth to it, which is Trump's just doing the same thing the Democrats do. He's just doing it better, which is why they don't really have any standing to really object in any, full-throated way.
So that's it is I mean, that bleeds into everything, right? That bleeds into why the Democrats are all of a sudden making a big show about the Epstein files, because they had power for a long time and they didn't say a thing about it. And then it's only until Trump became president that they care about it all of a sudden. Do you see that bleeding over into Epstein also?
Well, yeah. I mean, into everything, as you said. When Trump first kind of emerged on the scene and then became president, you and I had similar trajectories, which is we had been vaguely, more or less, associated with kind of the represented sort of by Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. That, to me, that was never fully represented in my politics, but more so than whatever else was available at the time. And the appeal I found it was that it was kind of an anti-establishment politics. And then once Trump won and the Democrats acted like Adolf Hitler had arrived, like this completely unrecognizable figure in the American political tradition, one of the reasons why I found that so repellent, that critique, was not because I also didn't find Trump disturbing in some ways. It was because to me, Trump was never anything other than just a continuation of what had come before, kind of like a natural extension of it and a byproduct of it, not some, that's why it was so important to them to create this narrative that, oh, George Bush, even though we disagreed with him, was such an honorable man, and so were the Cheneys, because they wanted to depict Donald Trump as this never before seen, unprecedented, poison that was contaminating our otherwise noble body politic. And the reality was, he wasn't really doing anything or saying anything that was worthy of criticism that was really all that meaningfully different than what had come before him. He was just a little bit more honest about it, a little more blunt about it. Comportmentally, he was different, but the substance of it, I never saw Trump as this radical deviation or departure from American tradition. I saw him as a continuation of it. And I think that has been the main error in liberal discourse over the past decade, is this pretense that somehow Trump is some unprecedented radical threat, as opposed to, in my view, the natural byproduct of what happens when the establishment itself on both parties rightfully loses the trust and faith of the public.
And this idea that, yes, Donald Trump is singularly corrupt. It's very hard to convince people that, yes, Trump is corrupt, but so are the Democrats. They just won't buy that. They see, and that's why you see these No Kings rallies. Now, I had on, Jeffrey Sachs, who I have utmost respect for, but he was saying that he was glad to see the No Kings protests, people standing up against a dictator-like presidency in Donald Trump. And, I always make the case here that those No Kings protests they're not protests. They're just rallies, because if they were a protest always has a demand attached to it. And there's zero demands attached to the No Kings rally. And that's how you know it's a psyop by the establishment to take that revolutionary energy that is real under Donald Trump and funnel it right back into the two-party duopoly. Would you agree with that? Hang on. You went completely blank now. Can't hear you at all for some reason.
Just 1 second.
Okay, now you're back.
Okay, so I'll give you an example of a real protest, and there are several of them, but I'll just give you an example of one. A real protest was the protest movement that erupted across American college campuses after October 7th in protest to the Israeli genocide in Gaza and to U.S. financing of it. Why was that a real protest? Because there were demands attached to it that were very serious, and we want you to stop funding and arming the Israeli war in Gaza and to stop funding and arming Israel in general. And also, it wasn't a protest designed to masquerade its real intentions, pretending it was one thing, but in reality just being kind of a partisan protest to keep people within the two-party system. In fact, it eventually became a protest movement that rejected both parties, and that probably played a pretty significant role in the 2024 election by having a lot of people who otherwise might have been inclined to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refuse to do so on the grounds that both parties were equally complicit in this moral crime that had crossed every line. There have been other protest movements that have been crushed, like Occupy Wall Street and even early versions of the Tea Party before it was co-opted by the Republican Party. Some of the protest movements of the 1960s, those are real protest movements. And the way you know they're real protest movements is not just because they have attached demands to them, but also because they end up getting crushed by the state. And the thing that I hate so much about this No Kings protest is, I started writing about politics. I stopped practicing law and started writing about politics in 2005, largely in response to the civil liberties abuses of the Bush and Cheney administration ushered in the name of the war on terror, which was accompanied by this whole litany of these very radical Article 2 theories about how basically the president is limitless in what he can do, really like creating the president as a monarch, like these theories that Dick Cheney had been working on since the 70s. And those extended into the Obama administration. And these people who were at the No Kings rally are the same ones who are saying, oh, we have to hold hands with Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney because these are the real patriots, even though we don't agree with them ideologically. Or who defended Obama when he was embracing these radical theories of presidential power. And so to watch them now suddenly find their voice about the limits of presidential power and the No Kings protest, when in reality it's just masquerading as this more noble thing that's really a Democratic Party protest. It's just an utter fraud. There's nothing even interesting about it.
And so how do you respond? Because now everybody I've known for 30 years in Hollywood calls me a Trumper because I told the truth about the Democratic Party, and I'm certain you get the same kind of flack. How do you handle that?
I mean, look, I have been going through this for a long time, and especially if you're somebody who has fixed principles, people have been debating for 20 years now. Like, what is my ideology and which is my party, and am I on the left, or am I libertarian, or am I MAGA, or am I this, or am I that? Ultimately, the reason why that happens is because you don't attach yourself to a particular political party and enslave yourself to it. If you do that, like, I'm a Democrat. Okay, that means everything that Trump does or anything the Republicans do, I'm against. And everything the Democrats do, I'm in favor. Like, I recently heard Kyle Kulinski say, he said, the worst Democrat, whoever you think is the worst Democrat, is 1,000 times better than the best Republican. So you have Democrats who support what he claims to think is a genocide. You have Democrats who are pro-genocide. And then you have Republicans who are against the genocide, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey or whomever, lots of Republican people who are conservative journalists and pundits as well. But because he has fixated his identity in this very banal partisan Democrat versus Republican box where the worst Democrat is infinitely better than even the best Republican, you end up on the one hand saying things that are completely incoherent, like, I think there's a genocide, but I still think people who are in favor of the genocide are better than people opposed to the genocide. But there's never any confusion about who he is. He's a Democrat. He's a liberal. He's a member of the left liberal wing of the Democratic Party. He's loyal to not any fixed ideas like opposition to genocide, but to the party. And so there's no confusion. If, however, you define yourself differently, if you're not enslaved by or captive to a particular political party or politician, I'm a Democrat, and that means that whatever the Democrats do, I'm going to cheer, and whatever the Republicans do, there's always going to be a question, wait a minute, he was against censorship or civil liberties abuses when Bush did them, so I thought he was a Democrat, I thought he was on the left, but then when Obama did them, he was criticizing Obama, but if you're criticizing Obama, that must mean that you're a Republican. And that's what all this confusion is, where it comes from. It's just like a very simple-minded, binary way of looking at political values and conflicts, and an inability to see them through any more of a sophisticated or complex lens. And so if you're somebody who thinks Russiagate was bullshit, as I do from the beginning, and I know you did too, or who hated the Democrat liberal kind of support for the NATO war in Ukraine and pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into the coffers of Boeing and General Dynamics in order to fund and arm neo-Nazi battalions in Ukraine, or if you dislike the, kind of censorship industrial complex that emerged after 2016, these were all things that liberals were doing, and you were criticizing liberals or diverging from their doctrine. And so the simple-minded people will say, oh, you must be MAGA, you must be pro-Trump, because they don't have any fixed principles, so they can't understand other people who actually do.
I was gobsmacked at someone's like Kyle Kulinski, who was there with us on the Russiagate. He was there with us on Force the Vote, and then he just seems like a lot of people just flipped all of a sudden and just became that thing you're describing, partisan. Which to me, there's nothing more simple-minded than being a partisan, and I was shocked by it, especially from someone like Kyle Kulinski, and now he's just a full-blown, he's as Aaron Mate calls it, blue MAGA. And what do you is it because these people like that are just as shallow as they can possibly be, and they really don't have any principles?
I mean, if I'm going to be as generous as I can, I guess what I would say is that there probably are people who, just by being immersed in left liberal culture, really did come to believe that Donald Trump is some never before seen, wicked, curse sent by Satan, and that the only thing that matters is stopping Donald Trump, and that means attaching yourself to the Democratic Party. Like, perhaps there's a genuine belief that that is the way to understand politics. Now, for all the reasons I said, I think that's unbelievably simplistic and binary and primitive, but it's possible that's genuinely how he sees the world, that like Donald Trump is the only thing that matters, stopping Donald Trump is the only thing that matters, and since the Democrats are opposed to Trump, automatically that makes Democrats better. I personally think things like genocide are unique evils. And so if there's a Republican who's opposed to it and a Democrat who's in favor of it, I'm obviously going to think the Republican, certainly in that extremely important instance and probably overall, is a better person. But if you don't think genocide is the worst thing, if you don't think destroying middle class economic security or the security of the working class is the worst thing, you actually just think Donald Trump is the worst thing, then that's going to be your worldview. I should also say, and I know you know this, and I'm not suggesting this is what motivates him, but it certainly motivates a lot of people, and it could subconsciously motivate anybody. The easiest way to gain a large audience and to make a lot of money in independent media is to plant your flag in one of the two partisan camps. I'm MAGA, I'm a Democrat, or like, I'm from the Bernie AOC wing of the Democratic Party. And you'll get a big audience. You'll have a lot of people watching your program as he does, but they're all like-minded people. You're not actually, you're not making an impact. You're not reaching anybody who doesn't already think the way you do. They're coming to get daily validation of their pre-existing views. And there are a lot of rewards in independent media for people who are willing to do that. That's, in fact, what most success is. And huge numbers of people have gotten very rich, from Rachel Maddow and Heather Cox Richardson and those Lincoln Project scumbags on down, to just adopting the most extremist anti-Trump view over the last decade. And I'm not saying this is what motivates him, but he's certainly one of the people who has benefited greatly in a very material way from kind of adopting that very partisan way of looking at the world. And I think those are corrupting incentives, even if you're not a corrupt person. Like, we're just human. We get that positive reinforcement, that daily dose of dopamine from people telling us how great we are, from having our audience numbers increase, and we think we're doing something really important and big. And that can subconsciously affect how we claim that we understand the world.
Yeah, I mean, I was told by, my liaison at, I'm lucky enough to have at YouTube, that, if you should if you picked a side, you would get better numbers and you would have a more successful channel. And I'm like, well, that's not what we do. And he's like, yeah, I know that. I'm just letting you know. That's why other people get more oomph in the algorithm. So anyway, let's move on to the news of today. Trump admitted today the real reason why he ended the war. And it's exactly what we've been saying here at the show, is that Trump doesn't have any cards to play, that Iran actually has all the cards to play, because we found out how important the Strait of Hormuz was and the fact that they can control it whenever they feel like it. So here he is admitting it.
I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them, why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and a couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong. Go ahead.
So,
how about you?
So
I'm going to get bad press. I know that. Now,
so what he just admitted there was that Iran held all the cards and that the United States and other people are burning through the reserves of oil. And even the oil company executives were going public saying, hey, if you think gas prices are high now, in a few weeks, they're going to spike even higher. Some people were saying $10 a gallon because they're burning through all the reserves of the oil that they had. And so Trump was forced to make a deal with Iran that's very favorable to Iran. That's the real reason. And so Trump just had. Do you think they had no idea that this was going to happen?
I mean, first of all, it's not just their ability to close the Strait of Hormuz, which they did. And of course, once they closed it, the U.S. then blockaded it entirely. So there's been no oil running through. And their calculation there was by blockading it entirely, by not allowing Iran to pick and choose, okay, China can come through, they're paying us, we're going to choke off the Iranian economy, and they're going to have to be forced to surrender because they're going to face economic collapse before they cause global economic collapse, and were forced to surrender, and they miscalculated. It's not just closing the Strait of Hormuz, but also the Iranians demonstrated, from the American and Israeli perspective, a very alarming ability to destroy the energy and gas infrastructure of what we call our Persian Gulf allies, which are Arab dictators that we're in bed with. These countries are not even little, countries. They're tiny little. I mean, I don't know if you've been there, but like you go to Doha or to Dubai, these are not countries. These are tiny little gas stations, basically. And Iran demonstrated in a very restrained way their ability to take out Qatari infrastructure, Jordanian infrastructure, Kuwaiti infrastructure, Saudi infrastructure, and had they unleashed the full force of the Iranian military, which they could have and would have done had there been escalation, you're talking about permanent damage to the global economy, well beyond what even the Strait of Hormuz and the closing of it has provided. And the only reason you haven't seen oil prices really spike, like to $150 a barrel or $250 a barrel, is because, as Trump said, they've been draining the reserves, the oil reserves that are all over the world. And those are running out. And the Iranians were not going to surrender. And so once they got to that point, Trump was petrified of what he was about to unleash on the world. And he was basically forced, I don't want to say into surrendering, but into a posture that is, I can't think of a parallel, at least in my lifetime, where the United States started a war and then was forced to end it on such humiliating terms. Maybe Vietnam, which wasn't really my lifetime, but I mean, shortly before that, you have to go back to Vietnam to have such a humiliating end to a war. And Trump's being very honest there. And I do think that's what happened. And
I'm just glad that he finally, woke up to reality, sobered up, so to speak, and he realized that they don't have any hand, they have no cards, and that if they don't do this, it's going to be devastation economically, not just for the United States, but for the world. Iran knew this. He didn't. He's surrounded by Zionist neocon morons who don't care what happens to the United States because they're Israel first. So they couldn't care less. They only care about Israel. And do you think he's now woken up to that fact that he can't put Israel first anymore?
I think Trump knows that this war has been a gigantic failure and that it's now hanging around his neck like an albatross. And Trump is not exactly a person known for accepting responsibility for his failures. He looks for other people to blame. And the reality is that Benjamin Netanyahu came to Washington 7 times in order to convince Trump to attack Iran. The very last time they met in the Situation Room, where Trump didn't even sit at the head of the table, but Benjamin Netanyahu presented with Mossad on the screen a presentation to Iran, to Trump, convincing him that this would be like Venezuela. That all you have to do is go in and decapitate the Ayatollah, which they did on the first day, kill a bunch of their top generals and a couple of their nuclear scientists, and then the entire state would collapse. And then you just go in, appoint whoever you want, empower them, and they'll do your bidding like the Venezuelan government is now at gunpoint doing in the United States. That did not happen. And it was very predictable that it would not happen because Iran is not Venezuela. Iran is a gigantic country with intense and very valuable natural resources. And they've been preparing for this for the last, 50 years. I mean, ever since the Iranian Revolution in 1979, the United States and Europe and Israel have wanted that government gone and wanted to restore the tyranny, the Shah's tyranny that was a puppet to the United States and to European interests and to Israel. And everything they do is about planning how not to let that happen. And this is Iranians are very smart. They're a very highly educated country, and they're very formidable, and their geography gives them extreme advantages. So once Trump realized that he was sold a con job by Netanyahu and the Mossad and whoever else was in his ear, probably Marco Rubio and a lot of these other advisors, Pete Hegseth, assuring him that this would be quick and fast. And you go look at what Trump was saying at the beginning, telling the New York Times it's going to be 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most. Promising everybody this would be done within a month or so. And then when it wasn't, and not only wasn't it, but the Iranians were showing they had far greater capability than anyone led Trump to believe that they had. I think he started looking around and getting angry at Israel and these neocons and these hawks who have led him into this war. And instead of accepting responsibility, he began to blame them. And that's why he's saying some remarkable things about Israel, like, hey, they seem to not value any non-Jewish human life. They're like blowing up entire apartment buildings in Lebanon, even though they're filled with innocent people. We should probably let the Al-Qaeda guy that we put in charge of Syria go do the job because he would be more careful and precise in his use of violence than the Israelis are. And then saying things like, yeah, of course the Iranians should be able to have ballistic missiles. Everybody has ballistic missiles. Why can't they have ballistic missiles? So you see Trump really desperate to get out of this war. And the Iranians knew he was desperate to get out of this war. And it's their civilization they were defending and their country they were defending. And they didn't play around, and they held out for a very good deal.
So he said something else today. I don't remember what this clip is. Let's play it, and we'll figure out what it is together.
We've been pretty tough on that. It is a little hard though when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it,
Okay, so this is him talking about enriched uranium for energy. Now that was one of the things they wanted to make sure they didn't have any enriched uranium, and they couldn't do that. And Iran is demanding, as a condition of this peace deal, is that they get to use nuclear power for energy. And so here he is going to say he's going to capitulate. He's going to admit that he's capitulating on that right here. Let's listen.
We've been pretty tough on that. It is a little hard though when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please.
So there it is. I mean, again, Iran, another big win for Iran, another big loss for the Trump administration and their stated goals. There he is. They're gonna be allowed to be allowed to have enriched uranium.
But Jimmy, it feels like, what it feels like? It feels like you're living in this insane world where you live under a government that just is completely mad and talking about the world in a completely unhinged way. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, you wake up and something breaks in the matrix. And the president who's leading this war based on these insane ideas suddenly just starts sounding so reasonable, like his eyes opened and he understands everything. Of course, the Iranians are entitled to have enriched uranium. There's this convention, this treaty that was signed called the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in the 70s, which was a response to the concern that every country was going to start to proliferate and acquire nuclear weapons, which is an extremely unsafe world. And everybody was incentivized to create a framework where you would limit the number of states that had nuclear weapons. And the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty was the convention, the global convention that was created to do that. And every country except for India, Pakistan, South Sudan, and Israel are signatories to the deal. And the Iranians are signatories. And one of the things that it says was a condition for people signing was that the idea is that you can't get nuclear weapons, but nothing is ever going to infringe your right to use nuclear energy. So you can enrich uranium. You can use enriched uranium for nuclear energy. Even if you're an oil-rich country, you may want to use nuclear energy because the more nuclear energy you use, the less oil you use, which means the more you can sell and generate revenue for your people and for your country. And so the Iranians have the same right of enriched uranium as every other country in the world. And the Iran deal was so perfect from the American perspective because the Iranians agreed to things that no other country in the world agreed to, which is we're going to accept limits on our enriched uranium of 3.67%, which is the maximum you need for enriched for energy. And in order to give you the confidence that we're abiding by that, we're going to allow very invasive inspections and surveillance regimes to look at everything that we're doing inside our enrichment facilities so you know we're not enriching toward a nuclear weapon. And had that protocol just remained in place, none of this would have ever happened. But Miriam Adelson and Netanyahu and the whole crew got Trump to nullify that, to withdraw from it in 2017. And now we're right back to a agreement that this time doesn't even provide those safeguards, that just has the Iranians promising them they won't get nuclear weapons. So when Trump says, of course we can't ban the Iranians from enriching uranium for nuclear purposes, just like in another clip, I don't know if you have it, but I referenced it earlier, the idea was, we're going to also force them to destroy their ballistic missile capability.
Here it is. Let me play it for you.
This is amazing also what he said.
In the press conference, you said you don't mind Iran having ballistic missiles. Can you elaborate on that? I want to make sure we understand your position.
No, I'm saying that if other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for them not to have some. A ballistic missile is not the same thing as what we're talking about when we talk nuclear. But if Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and they all have some, I would say in relative proportion, I think it's okay. That's what I mean.
There it is.
But Jimmy, this is what I'm saying. I don't know what world I'm living in. I feel like I'm dreaming, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and he's going to be back to be like, this is a terrorist state. We have to bomb the shit out of them and destroy their. Because this has been the point all along. Ballistic missiles are conventional weapons. That's what they use to bomb Israel when Israel attacks them. They're the deterrent that they use against Israeli aggression. Why is it in the interest of the United States to try and go to war to prevent Iran from having what every other country has, which are conventional ballistic missiles? They're not a threat to the United States. Maybe they're a threat to Israel, although they're not really even a threat to Israel if Israel doesn't attack Iran. And then Trump suddenly wakes up and he's like, why would I go to war to demand that Iran not have ballistic missiles? Everybody has ballistic missiles. And he's like, it's not fair to Iran. We were talking about Iran as like the devil, for the last decade. And now suddenly he's like, it's really not fair to Iran. And it's true, it's not fair to Iran. It's just shocking to hear it coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, but they chant death to America. They chant, Glenn. Can you believe they chant? That's
scary. It's like Dave Rubin inside the Jubilee Circle.
And so, of course, Trump is getting it from all sides, right? So even MSNBC, I just saw a clip of them criticizing Donald Trump, this deal, as it relates to Lebanon. And then, of course, you have people like Ben Shapiro, who wants to go completely bonkers and ramp up the war again. Let's listen.
I'm noticing that Mohammed Khalibaf, who will apparently on Friday be literally in a photo op with the Vice President of the United States. I cannot express to you how stomach-turning that is. I don't care who the Vice President is. I don't care who the President is. Leaders of the United States of America in a photo op with a mass murdering terrorist supporter like Mohammed Khalibaf shaking hands 6 months after he blew away 42,000 innocent people in the streets, and weeks after his administration was firing missiles at literally all of our allies in the region and continues to support every terrorist group in the region and is currently continuing to control the strait. Like right now, it is not fully open for business unless the Iranians have, quote unquote, decided it is. The idea here is that somehow this administration and the deal that has been cut weakens Hezbollah. I'm not seeing it so much. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's there. And we haven't seen the MOU for the 1,000th time. We haven't seen the MOU. That's not because of me. I would like to see the MOU. I think you would like to see the MOU. Hell, I think we'd all like to see the MOU. If Israel is not a party to the actual talks, which they are not, they have not been included in the talks. If Israel is not a signatory to the agreement, which they are not, how in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens? Shall we say that this is not a popular MOU, from what I understand, in Israel? And again, Israel, they were flying jets alongside American jets during this whole operation. Iran was firing at American soldiers during this whole operation. So playing halvesies is a bit strange. If we release funds, or if we tell our Arab Gulf state allies to release funds to Iran, it doesn't have to be American taxpayer dollars. That is us releasing money to Iran. If you unfreeze money to a terrorist group, that is in fact money going to a terrorist group. It does not have to come from American. That's sleight of hand. It's rhetorical sleight of hand. I was not under the impression that you and I would be paying taxpayer dollars to go straight to Iran. But if we press people to release money to a terror state in order for them to continue to toll the strait and to exert control whenever they feel threatened, or for them to rebuild their ballistic missile and nuclear capacities, that is a gigantic mistake. To go back to the 5 standards of a good deal versus a bad deal would look like continued nuclear development. A bad deal would look like continued ballistic missile development. A bad deal would look like funding of terrorism abroad continuing. A bad deal would look like continued Iranian control over the strait and tolling of the strait. And a bad deal would look like more funding going into Iran.
So that's the kind of pressure he's getting from his right. He's also getting it from the left. I think the only thing, first, there's so many things he said that are just ridiculous there, like to see the vice president standing with a terrorist. They just had the chief head chopper from Al-Qaeda at the White House. And he's also welcomed on Downing Street. So this idea
Trump was with the military dictator of Egypt, General Sisi, today. And also at the same time, Ben Shapiro is talking about our Arab Persian Gulf allies and partners who are the worst despots and tyrants on the planet, the Saudis and the Emiratis, etc. So that whole pretense that Ben Shapiro cares so deeply about the freedom and civil liberties and welfare of the Iranian people, and cares that also, I don't know if Ben Shapiro knows this, but in World War II, the United States was allied with Joseph Stalin, who actually killed huge numbers of people, far, 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 far more than the Iranians ever thought about killing. And President Roosevelt and then afterwards Harry Truman sat down with Joseph Stalin along with Winston Churchill in order to create peace deals and create the Nuremberg trials. I mean, if J.D. Vance would meet with Iranian officials, that's not even close to the worst people on the planet that the United States has met with, not just historically, but continues to this very day to meet with. But I think the more important point is not just all that pro-Israel propaganda that if you don't know by now is propaganda, you probably aren't going to listen to me explaining why. The issue is what you referred to earlier, which is there are a lot of Democrats who agree with Ben Shapiro. Today Adam Schiff came out and basically was complaining that Trump, quote unquote, capitulated, that this is a horrible deal. The Democratic Party is filled with AIPAC loyalists. They're led in the Senate by Chuck Schumer, who absolutely wants this war to continue. And that's the pressure that Trump is going to be facing. If this is a real intent to stop this war, either permanently or into the near future, which is the pro-Israel lobby does not take losses, certainly not without nuclear bombs being launched. And they have both parties, not just the neocon right, led by people like Mark Levin and
Lindsey Graham
and Mike Huckabee and Ben Shapiro. They have all those AIPAC whores in the Democratic Party as well, and both of them are going to close in around Trump and Vance in order to claim that they surrendered to Iran. And I wouldn't be surprised. Let me just say this one thing. In the last time an American president really tried to defy the pro-Israel lobby was during Bush 41, when James Baker and all those guys were telling the Israelis we weren't going to give them loan guarantees if they didn't stop expanding West Bank settlements. And Bill Clinton in 1992, when he ran against Bush 41, ran on a platform in part accusing the Bush administration of being anti-Semitic because they were criticizing Israel and that was endangering American Jews. I think that's what's going to start to happen to Trump as well.
That's why the No Kings rally doesn't have a demand even end the Iran war, because the Democrats are actually for the Iran war. Chuck Schumer is a tool of Israel and the AIPAC lobby, as is Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, again, the whole Democratic leadership is on this. They're all neocons. That's the whole part. We have two right-wing parties, so to speak, in America. There is no left wing in the United States, and that's why we have the horrible government we have. We don't have an opposition party. It's one party, and they all agree on the same things, which is Israel, more war in the Middle East, more war in Ukraine, the keeping American workers from health care, and crushing unions. They all agree on all the same horrible stuff. Okay.
Right. And, that's why, to the extent I was ever kind of curious about or even interested in the Trump movement and the emergence of Donald Trump, was because it presented an opportunity that did not previously exist, where you had a Republican president running for president in 2016 against all those establishment Republican goons like Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and all the rest. And he was running on a platform saying, endless war is a disaster. The Iraq war was destructive. We have to get out of the Middle East. We're pouring all our money into the military-industrial complex. And then eventually that morphed into a very significant faction on the American right, the populist American right, that took America first seriously, that started questioning our participation in NATO wars in Ukraine, as well as eventually our bizarre alliance with and support for Israel. And you have, in a lot of ways, this very unique populist coalition from left and right and from other places on the map that I had seen and hoped to kind of nurture and feed all the way back, when I was going on Tucker Show in 2016 and talking to Megyn Kelly and being on Laura Ingraham and going on these right-wing shows where I was talking about this anti-imperialist agenda because I saw these cracks forming. And I reached the point where, and I'm sure I know you did too, where the idea of just like staying within the Democratic Party and hoping that like one day AOC, who's quickly on her way to becoming Nancy Pelosi, or if not worse, somehow reforms any of this and introduces a new politics, which is never going to happen. To me, the only possibility for a new politics is creating a new coalition, like a new group of people who really aren't quite so identifiable any longer as left versus right, but kind of opposed to the corporatist and militaristic establishment and agenda that you just laid out.
Do you think that I used to be a believer in third parties, but I've seen the corruption, infiltration of the Green Party. And why won't, just like the establishment has completely bought corporate news and corporate media to as Chomsky taught us, that they're there not to give you the news, but to manufacture consent. And now they're taking over independent news also. I mean, they're infiltrating. Why wouldn't they buy off independent news? Why wouldn't they? Of course, they're doing that. They'll just buy off the third party. It's divide and conquer. They'll infiltrate, and they'll get them to care about things that are wedge issues. They'll be talking about bathrooms and biological males in sports. And, the baseball team in San Francisco putting a gay pride flag on their hat and people wearing Bible verses. So they're going to talk about that nonstop until the election. So I just don't, do you really believe that there's a chance for a third party, like of people, of like-minded people like you and Tucker Carlson and me and Dave Smith and those types of people? Do you think that there could ever...
You have to believe it, because if you don't, first of all, if you don't believe it, then I don't know what we're doing, right? Like if I were just defeatist and black-pilled about everything, like this is never going to work, Republicans and Democrats are going to just, maintain this monopoly, this stranglehold on our politics forever, I would go find something else to do. Like I wouldn't just sit here spinning my wheels believing that it was all futile. And the other thing I would say is I've seen enough in politics. I'll just give you an example, Jimmy. I never thought I would see the day when a majority of Americans say they identify with and sympathize more with and support Palestinians more than they do with Israelis. I never thought I would see the day when conservatives and Republicans under the age of 50 oppose U.S. financing and support for Israel. This changed very rapidly. Things that you couldn't say without suffering complete reputational and career destruction 5 years ago is now mainstream for everybody to say. And there are other more banal examples, like, when I was 25 and in law school and working on gay issues, nobody ever thought gay marriage was even a possibility. And now it's just the law in all 50 states and multiple countries around the world. These changes that you think are impossible can happen, and they happen quickly. And I think the most important political fact is that pretty much everybody hates the establishment. People don't trust institutions of authority. It's why somebody as unlikely as Donald Trump got elected. And really, it's even as why somebody as unlikely as Barack Obama got elected. And you see in politics throughout Europe and throughout all the democratic world, this extreme fundamental discontent, fracturing what had long been these stable orthodoxies and producing outcomes. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not, but ones that never really people thought were possible. And yes, I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not even willing to necessarily bet that it will, but you have to find something that you believe in and that you think is possible to change. Otherwise, what's the point?
think the only way something like that can happen is if the pain gets so great for the American people that they actually rise up. The workers have to rise up. Like I had told Tucker, if Trump doesn't end this war and gas prices do go to $10 a gallon, I'm sure the truckers will occupy Wall Street or the Capitol. And if all the rail workers didn't show up for work for a couple of days, if all the port workers didn't show up, or if all the essential workers, as we found out during COVID, what is actually essential and what isn't, it's not middle management. If they would have to do something like that, and they would have to connect that to a demand, and that demand would be no corporate money, no billionaire money in politics. It's all got to be publicly financed. To me, that's the only way that we can get control of our government again in a nonviolent way. Anyway, is that if we have to shut down the machine. The workers have to do that, and then have a demand tied to it, and that demand has to be public financing of elections. What do you say to that? Do you have a better idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, I broadly agree with that, but I would also say that, the two-party duopoly, the only real vulnerability that it has is that there emerges some third option that either is driven by populist rage and desperation, as you just described, or is backed by some kind of unlimited billionaire funding. And, the example that I often use is, in 1988 and 1992, Ross Perot mounted his very serious third-party campaign. He made the stage. There was a chance he could win for a while because he was a billionaire funding his own campaign, and they couldn't really stop that. Had Bernie Sanders been nominated, had the DNC not cheated in 2016 for Hillary, and had Bernie Sanders been nominated, and it was Bernie against Trump, I'm absolutely positive somebody like Michael Bloomberg, probably him or somebody like him, would have run in this third-party billionaire-backed campaign. Now, obviously, there's nothing promising about that. Although Ross Perot's campaign was really interesting in retrospect because it was largely warning about the dangers of free trade and how NAFTA and all those free trade agreements were going to destroy the entire American working class, and that sucking sound that he described of the entire, heartland being deindustrialized actually is exactly what ended up happening. So, I personally, or you could even, in this kind of age where charisma and intention matter so much, you could imagine a very well-known figure who has a lot of capacity to inspire people, to speak well, to gain attention, somebody like Tucker Carlson, who could enter that breach between the discontent that emerges out of the policies that both parties share, and make clear that it's not one party or the other fucking you, it's both parties, it's the two-party dogma. And somebody like that, I would love to see a Tucker candidacy, or somebody who has similar abilities and skills to be able to kind of patch together that coalition of working class people, of people who are anti-war, who are anti-corporatist, that we were just describing. So again, I'm not saying any of these options are easy. Obviously, the Republicans and Democrats have spent decades building it so that it's almost impossible to do, but as long as it's not impossible, and I think the key ingredient is this extreme radical anti-system, anti-status quo anger that is more pervasive than most people realize, that to me can be the driving force for it.
It's Pride Month, and I was just in Spokane, Washington, and Tacoma, and they were all full-blown priding. And what I've been saying on stage is that it's kind of funny to me that there's a big faction of the country that sees gay people still as victims. And I have to remind them, you're victors. You're not a victim. You have won. And there's nothing you're fighting for anymore. And so now they're just using the 2SAL, LGBTQIA++, they're just using that now to, I see that as the establishment using that to keep people divided. And because otherwise people could come together easily. Do you agree with that gay people are the victors and they're not victims anymore?
Of course. Here's the thing. This is my view of this, which is, like I told you before, when when I first, started becoming involved in, say, the fight for equality for gay people, when gay people had not won. I mean, there was no equal rights for gay people. This is, coming out of the 80s, where some of the worst things happened, like people who were married and who were living together, who were in love with each other. One of them got sick and they had no legal rights. The spouse did. And so the parents who were anti-gay were able to keep them out of the hospital room while they were dying out of the decision. Like really horrible, horrible stuff. You could easily get fired for being gay. Like no equality at all. Once that movement started succeeding, and it started succeeding not because people with opposing views were censored, not because they were canceled or demonized, but because they were persuaded.
Right.
They were persuaded that what you have in your mind of a gay person, this demonization that you've been fed, actually what gay people are is that uncle that you've always loved, or your younger brother, or the neighbor that you have always trusted your kids with, or your teacher that, was so important in your formation. That's what ultimately persuaded people that gay people are, people and deserve the same rights as everybody else. And as I said, gay marriage wasn't even anything that anyone even thought of. That was so unrealistic. And then ultimately that became kind of the North Star of gay and lesbian politics. And then that happened. Even before Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision in 2015 that said it's unconstitutional to deny gay people the right to marry, state after state after state was democratically enacting the legalization of same-sex marriage. And then suddenly in all 50 states, gay couples and gay people had 100% full legal equality. What happened? The problem is that you have all these activist groups that are drowning in huge amounts of money, these big establishment DNC adjacent groups like the Human Rights Campaign and GLAAD and all these advocacy groups. And they're filled with money. They have big buildings. The people who work there get big NGO salaries. And these activist groups don't want to win, because if they win, it means, okay, let's close up. Like you said, we won. So that means it's time to close up these activist groups. We don't need this constant, victimhood narrative. And this is true for every group, for Black groups, for the ADL. The ADL needs anti-Semitism. The NAACP needs racism epidemics. Now, when these feminist groups need misogyny, that's what they feed on. And so even if they win, they can't admit it. So what will happen is they'll start inventing whole new issues to claim injustice. And that's exactly when these gay groups stopped caring about gay and lesbian rights and moved into trans issues. But even there, people didn't really care about trans people. They were fine. Most Americans have this live and let live attitude. Nobody cares if the person down the block, on the corner or in some apartment, was born a man and wants to live as a woman. It doesn't really affect. So what they had to do is create societal resistance. No, we're not just asking for tolerance. Or even legal equality. We want your kids to be identified as trans. We want, girls' sports to now include boys who are, and so this created this resistance that then in turn was picked up by the right that also needs culture war issues in order to avoid the more important and substantive and more difficult questions of how power is dispersed with war and military and economics. And both sides have an interest in manufacturing these relatively trivial culture war disputes, and they feed on each other. And that's exactly the sort of illusion that these two parties rely upon to create the perception that they're always at each other's throats and that they're radically different, when in reality, on the issues that matter most to people's everyday lives, they're far more similar than they are different.
Do you see any hope for that issue? Because again, I agree with everything you just said, that they have to now create these niche kind of the wedge issues. And it's just amazing to me that, I grew up and there were a thing called cross-dressers, and everybody except they were on Phil Donahue and they were on Geraldo, and everybody except, okay, there's straight guys who like to dress like women and that's their thing, and nobody cared. And now they all disappeared and now everybody's trans. And so it's like that, because they, just like you said, that Zionism needs anti-Semitism as its fuel. They need some kind of hatred of some kind of subset of gay group as their fuel to justify their existence. Do you see any hope for this to end?
Yeah, I mean, actually, think that the vast majority of Americans are not primarily motivated by these issues. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are hateful. Obviously, demagogues and politicians try and exploit hatred, and they try and augment it and give it nutrition because they want it to grow, because that is a politically potent weapon, is to make people afraid of the people down the block instead of the people in Washington. And if you can get people afraid of each other, you know, the immigrants or the gay people or the Christians or whomever, that is a very powerful force. But I do think most Americans have a kind of basic decency to them outside of the like political junkie class and the political discourse. Not saying we're not prejudiced, we all are. We're all kind of, you know, have our bigotries and our prejudices that come from our subjective experiences. But I don't think most Americans are hateful and want to just constantly be fed this political diet of just hating others. The problem is, you know, it's political propaganda. It's demagogues who are skilled at getting us to hate each other. But I don't think most people are going to the polls primarily concerned about keeping trans people out of sports or putting them in sports. I think most people, black and white and Latino and male and female and gay and straight and trans and cis, whatever, Muslim and Christian and, you know, Jewish and atheist, whatever. And it's a little cliche the way I'm describing it, but it's still true. Wake up and care about the economic condition of their lives, whether when they get sick, they're going to be able to afford, you know, to have their parents cared for or, you know, have a decent end to their life, or when their kids get sick, whether they're going to have access to healthcare, whether they're going to have like a decent ability to raise kids, to pay for their houses, to not be drowning in debt. These are the things that determine a person's life and their happiness and their fulfillment. And I think that's what people are most focused on. And if you take polls and ask people about that, they'll tell you, I care about the physical security of my family, like issues of crime and security. Obviously, we're always going to care about that. And the economy and my ability to have a decent life for myself and my family by working dignified jobs. And I think that's what most Americans are hungry for, is a politics that directly addresses that need. And people that have pretended to care about that, like Obama and Trump, have succeeded because they convinced most people that that was where their focus would be, even though it ended up not being there.
Okay. All right, Glenn. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been way too long. I miss you personally. I always enjoy your company. And it does hurt my feelings when you come to my city and you don't call me.
Well, Jimmy, you know I love you. I love your show. I love your executive producer. And so, you know, I haven't been on simply because I had my own show and it was very difficult. I'm always happy to come on. It's always great to see you. I'm always a fan of what you're doing, and I'm happy to come on whenever.
Okay. All right. Take care. And
have a good evening, Jimmy.
We'll talk to you again soon. I hope you get your microphone fixed.
Everything's fixed.
Okay. All right.
Goodbye.
I love you.
All right. We're going to jump to Rumble, and we'll be right back.
Oh, I loved it.